Okay, let's start right at the beginning here. We've got Creationist Crybaby in the house. CC, good to have you. And it's a question for you, Brian. He's coming at you, I think. Brian Lauer, dating data from radioactive decay, ice cores, dendrochronology, and index fossils corroborate one another. What corroborates Genesis genealogy?
Well, I would point out that his premise is wrong. They've had, when they know the age of the rock, the radiometric decay does not work. And when they do ice cores, that didn't work with, they just searched this, what was it called? Lost Squadron. It was supposed to, they thought they'd go up there and they thought they'd dust it off, and it was under meters and like hundreds of feet of ice. There's hundreds of ice rings there, and it wasn't hundreds of years old. And then the index fossils, check out the coelacanth. That was the index fossil for the dinosaurs, and it's still alive. Okay, what corroborates Genesis? What corroborates the Genesis? I would say a worldwide flood. You look around, you see layers of sedimentary rock that are worldwide. They had to be laid down at the worldwide flood. And then you also look at the fossils. That's evidence of the flood. And then also, the evidence, and then biology. You know, it says everything produces after their kind. That's what the Bible says about biology. And that's what we see in real life. And that's what we see in the fossil record. We have all these explosions. Okay. And then also astronomy. God made it. You know, whenever they send up he made the stars also. That's what it says. And whenever they do the James Webb Space Telescope or the Hubble Deep Field Image, they're always shocked at what they find. They expect to find infant galaxies, population 3 stars, and they never find them. And then anthropology, it's the Tower of Babel. That's where we get the languages. And how does language evolve? It seems like the farther back we go, the more complex it is. It's like our languages are devolving. Just look at your text messages. And so Genesis, I think, speaks strongly for a creator. And I hope that I answered the question properly.
Thank you, Brian. Mark, over to you. The floor is yours.
Oh, I love the Lost Squadron. So that's something that's brought up. I love ice cores. They go back so far, like 800,000 years, I think was the last one. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, a long, long time back, they always bring up the Lost Squadron. Lost Squadron was on an active glacier. The ice cores they're talking about is from a non-active glacier in Antarctica. It's not even remotely the same. So active glaciers are ones that recede and go forward, and that's why the squadron was under there. But it is such a common trope. I feel like having a bingo card for it. It's fantastic because it's like, yep, you do not understand what they're doing in Antarctica. Dendrochronology is tree rings, of course, radioactive decay. Again, this is sort of brings up the heat problem where radioactive decay would throw out alpha and beta particles that would heat up so much that the Earth would be a molten rock. No, all of this is fantastic. I think that you sort of, when you talk about what confirms Genesis genealogy, like the flood, we don't think the flood happened. We know where floods happen. We've got the Missoula floodplains. There's evidence of flood there. It doesn't happen worldwide. There's other civilizations like Egypt, which have gone totally fine throughout this flood without even mentioning it, which is kind of strange. Japanese civilization did the same. So yeah, big shout out to Crybaby. What a beautiful baby. What an awesome person. Love you a lot.
Thank you, Mark. Brian, the question was for you. Therefore, you get the last word. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would suggest that he check out Mount St. Helens. You know, that came out at 340,000 to 2.8 million, that lava dome. So that one didn't work. And there's other ones that in Hawaii, they got that one wrong. It's like when we know the amount of the date that when it went up, we get wrong ages. So why should we think that it works when we don't know the age of the date? And then you can check out Skull 1470 and the KBS Tuft. They dated at millions of years, 200 million years. And then they find this skull underneath. It's like, oh, that breaks our paradigm here. So they had to redate it again and again and again until they used the pigs. And it's like, well, this doesn't work. Let's use the pig fossil and that'll date it. So just go into ICR, and I think it's called the pig's habit or something like that. But yeah, there's two positions. One's a blind chance perspective, and they think that, you know, each layer, each ice ring is 1 year, and it's just warmer, colder. That's all it is. And then tree ring dating, they've found that there's more than one ring per year at times. And so, yeah, it's basically it all starts with our belief system. Do we believe in blind chance or creation? We'll find the stuff that we're looking at for. And I just encourage people to what makes the most sense. Was it designed or was it created?
Okay, next question. We've got another one from Creationist Crybaby, and it's a good question. because this topic was brought up several times during the debate. But if I remember correctly, you guys did not directly engage it. And so, Brian, here's a question for you.
Is that a
And it
question
comes-
to Mark, or was that a question to me? Do I get the last comment?
Oh, the
That-
last one was a question for Mark, if I remember correctly.
I
Let me
thought it
see.
was to me.
No,
'Cause basically-
Katrina Cook, question for Mark.
Okay, sorry.
That's
Sorry.
I think
okay.
this one's for me as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll start with you then, Mark. Creationist Crybaby. I assume your questions are always for the creationists. So this time around, it goes to Mark. Mark, humans and chimps have thousands of ERVs or endogenous retroviruses in common, the same type of ERV at the same location in the genome. Explain from the evolution perspective.
Yeah, so ERVs are basically viruses that have transposed their genetic sequence into our DNA. Now, we know that this occurs in a germline, in an egg or a sperm, because instead of being at random parts in different cells of our body, they're all in the same place on the same cell, which means that it hasn't been transmitted through your body. It occurred when you were first, when the egg first came out, it was infected. Now, these are common, and they have selection sites, but they can be really anywhere in the genome. So they have preferred insertion points, but they can be anywhere. These are the same, but over organisms, which means that the chances of the same virus being inserted in the same place on the genome through every single cell in the body is absolutely impossible. The only way this could happen is if we had a common ancestor. That is the only plausible explanation. And it has been said that endogenous retroviruses are kind of the nail in the coffin of sort of different, like separate ancestry. We share some of them with fish. We share some of them with other animals. We share some of them with mammals. We share some of, and the funny thing is that the more you get towards the closeness in genetics, us and another animal or another creature is, another organism is, the more you get of these in the nested hierarchy pattern. So they actually follow what we would expect from evolution if evolution is true.
Thank you, Mark. Brian, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay, and you got that. That's a blind chance perspective, and that's what they come up with. But what do we know? What's high confidence? We know there's ERVs there. We know that. How they got there is low confidence. And another way to think about it is they were designed there. Instead of a common ancestor, it was a common designer, because these ERVs, and this is according, you can check this out at ICR, Dr. Tompkins' viral genome junk hits the trash, because some of these sections of virus-like DNA were shown to have functions. And then some of the functions were placenta development. And it's hard to get births without placentas. So these were probably designed right at the get-go for anybody who had a placenta. And they were also good. They're also used in gene regulation, and they're also used in immune suppression. And so that it's like, it kind of reminds me of junk DNA, where they're making all these fabulous claims about junk DNA and being fabulously wrong over time. And it kind of reminds me of that. But if ERVs have functions, I would suggest that they were designed there, not by blind chance, which, and that's what happens when you reject a designer. You have to imagine all these things happening at once. And I think, people should be able to at least talk about a designer. I mean, that's a possibility. Why is that excluded from class?
Thank you, Brian. Mark, you get the last word. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a funny thing. When something looks like something, creationists will say, hey, it is that thing. But when we see ERVs being retro-transposed into the DNA, when we see all of this happening, and this has the exact hallmarks of retroviruses act exactly the same, and we have seen these viruses co-opted for a benefit. For instance, the HIV virus has been co-opted to provide immunity to other diseases because we can then use it. So in some cases, it's really beneficial to have this kind of information written into your DNA, because it provides some sort of benefit. And there's tons of papers on this explaining how it works. It really is just they want to ignore So we don't say it shouldn't have any function. It should have function. That nobody said that. It is a straw man by the creationists say, oh, they didn't think it had function. No, we're aware it has a lot of function. We're absolutely aware, because if it was transposed in there and it didn't have any function, it wouldn't survive. It wouldn't be selected for by natural selection. So it makes so much sense that these have been co-opted for some kind of functionality. And that is how it's explained. Now, it's not blind chance. It is chance that the virus got inserted, but most of the time the organism just dies. It is that blind chance. Well, maybe that the ones that are selected, it is deterministic. If it does something really good, like prevents you from getting certain viruses, you may hold on to it, and it may be fixed within a population. It may be spread around and fixed into a population. So then the entire population has this benefit. That is co-option of retroviruses for our benefit. It's a very well understood process. Read some papers on it. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for interacting with Creationist Crybaby's question and that topic. Let's start at the beginning. Creationist Crybaby, good to have you here in our live chat tonight. I hope you've enjoyed this debate. I know I have. And Jerry, the question's for you. So the first question's for you. Here it is. Jerry, Lucy's humerus to femur ratio is 84.6%, which is intermediate between modern humans, which is 71.8%, and chimpanzees, which are 97.8%. What kind was Lucy? Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, don't have that data in front of me. I have no idea. I know humans vary in height from what, 2 feet, 2.5, 3 feet to 7 feet, I guess, some people. So we have a lot of variation. And I have no doubt that Lucy's kind had a lot of variation as well. And so it happens to be that number and some number. And that's not a number that I keep track of.
So when Creationist Crybaby asked what kind was Lucy, Jerry, are you saying there was one Australopith kind, or there were many Australopithecine kinds, or how would you view that?
Well, Lucy was Australopithecus afarensis, I believe, and at least unless it's changed, and that's the classification, and I have no problem with that classification, and so that's fine.
Okay, Erica, any thoughts?
Yeah, the reason it's intermediate is because Australopithecus afarensis is the best candidate right now for being ancestral to genus Homo. So that's why, because we're seeing an increase in the efficiency of bipedalism, and that includes a more human-like limb ratio.
Thank you, Erica. Jerry, any final thoughts since the question was for you?
No, it's an interesting fact, but it doesn't really prove that hydrogen evolved into humans.
Okay, so here's a question from one of our biggest fans, Creationist Crybaby. So you're going to be Evolutionist Crybaby soon after all these presentations. I'm just kidding. We like to tease each other. So he's wondering, Ryan, and I appreciate the question there, CC. Can you explain? He says also, so there must be something before that. Let me see. Oh, here we go. We got enough questions to keep us busy till same time tomorrow, Ryan. So he says, Ryan, please explain how the eastern margins of North and South America match the western margins of Europe and Africa, and all match the shape of the highly volcanic mid-Atlantic ridge.
Yeah. I haven't studied those areas in depth, so I don't want to get too far out and speculate too much, but I'll just say that, logically, when you have that much interplay going on between those systems, they have to be genetically linked. They have the same root cause, right? And so, statistically, logically speaking, they are connected. To tell you the details of that and how that worked, I don't know, and I honestly don't know that we have a really good sense of that in the creation science world yet.
That keeps what the technical aspects of your presentation, Ryan, the way you explain the interplay between these different systems means they have to be linked or connected into one, basically, as I understand it, single catastrophic event. that makes a lot of the technical aspects of what you're saying is understandable, but it also provides a good rebuttal to a lot of the critics' possible challenges. So he says, also explain the matching fold belts in structure and age in Appalachian Mountains, Little Atlas Mountains of Morocco, Scottish Highlands, and there's a couple others. Are you familiar with those, Ryan?
Yeah. The Appalachians are really one mountain chain from, the Georgia on up through Maine, Nova Scotia, Greenland, and right straight over to the Scottish Highlands. Yes, they're all part of one mountain chain that it was split apart. I think what we don't have a good sense of yet is if those were possibly pre-flood mountains, because they do appear to be older. They're a lot different than the structural styles that we see in the Rockies, for example. So something different was going on there, potentially pre-flood. There's a lot of Precambrian faulting and within that. So, but they're definitely linked.
It's a good answer. I appreciate that, Ryan. And so we got one here from CC, and he's wondering, occasionally biological materials don't break down. They can become sealed inside stone as the deposition process occurs. They need to be liberated by dissolving the mineral away. No DNA. I guess he's wondering why.
So why is there no DNA in those situations? So I don't know is the short answer. It's a good question, and I think let's speculate. So it's probably because the DNA itself is degrading pretty rapidly before it's sealed.
Yeah, that makes it well, and this goes to the future testable predictions aspect of the model too, right? Looking for DNA, or am I missing something on that one?
No.
Okay.